morning, bros. Good morning. Hey, you guys. Hopefully you're just doing great. Maybe, I don't know how life's treating everybody. That's good and some that's bad. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. At least that, bros. Hope you haven't had that much going for you. Let's see. Let me fix a couple things here, dudes. We'll get going. And, for sure, we'll get going. My dog out there going stupid. That's normal, typical for Otis. So here, you know, now, bros. Now, let's see here. Battle of Sunny Day. Really? Let's keep. Let's play us Alabama. You know, maybe we can. Hopefully. Damn, I just shit on myself, bros. That's a no joke deal. I shit you not, Pilgrim. I'm dead serious, man. Yeah. Okay. Let's get straightened up here. Hopefully. See what we can do. Since we're waiting on the game, let's see what's going on here in the world. That's a good topic right there. Yeah, I mean Marcus, and I'll get it to play in.
Autopilot mode enabled.
We should be okay now. Listen to this one, bros. Body cam footage shows Georgia's mom arrested after 10-year-old walks to store alone. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
I need you to come out here.
Hey guys, can I call y'all right back in just a second? I've got somebody at the door here. Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Alright, bye. Yes, ma'am.
One second.
Is there
There we go.
like your grandpa?
No.
And she looks like she's entitled.
No, there's nobody here but Mom.
Okay. Turn around for me.
Why?
Because you're under arrest.
For what?
For the incident we talked about earlier today.
What am I under arrest for?
For reckless endangerment.
And how was I
Turn around.
recklessly endangering my
We're not
child?
talking about it.
So we're gonna call Mommy and tell him they're taking you to jail because you decided to walk down.
Enemy force
That's
sighted
not
on the
his-
horizon.
Yeah, come on,
You're,
Mom.
you're the mother.
You
You're
don't
child.
want to talk to me, please. Thanks, Lauren.
I need It is in there 10 years. I'm just gonna look this up, make sure there's no weapon on
Nothing in your purse, right?
Damn. They arresting her, man. Damn.
An emergency air medical crew is
Enemy cruiser detected.
I mean, I guess so, bro. I don't know the age limit of, I know there's age limit. You can leave them alone, man. Now that much I do know. Wait a minute. Let me turn this right here off, bro. Or, get her info somewhere else on the MSNBC. Well, that I do know, you know. Fuck you, Hornet. I'll stay right here, bro. You get cover, bro. Okay. But I do know there's an age limit. I just don't, honestly remember what it is. I do know there is one. There's absolutely an age limit on that you can leave them alone. Now, out walking and shit, I didn't know there was. Because some kids walk to school in cities and stuff like that. So I mean, that one. I mean, I know you can't leave them home alone
Ship is on fire.
unless they're 14 years old. Now that much I positively do know. That you can't leave them alone until they're 14. Okay. I'm for sure of that.
Toilet gets clogged in the future, don't use your hands to clear it. We
We are in the weekend of Thanksgiving, and everyone has a different reason to be thankful. We're in a month now out from the new administration taking over, and less than 2 months from Inauguration Day. Hope is on the horizon for many. And on the heels of the historic election, the acceptance of President Trump is signaling, in my view, a shift in America. There's an optimism that I feel, and possibly it's going to ripple throughout the world. What changes do we expect to see in this country with Donald Trump about to take the helm again? Let's ask author of a brand new book, We Who Wrestle with God, a great friend of the show, Perceptions of the Divine, and Canadian psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson. Dr. Peterson, welcome back to the show. Love the blazer. We'll get to it in a moment. But first things first, what's significant about this change in leadership for America?
Well, I think the primary element of significance is probably the team that has aggregated itself around Trump. We know in some ways what a Trump presidency would be like because we already had one, but we don't know what a Trump presidency with Kennedy and Vivek Ramaswamy and Musk and J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard is going to be like, and that's only a few of the people that have volunteered for service. And they really have volunteered because these are all people who have many other things that they could be doing that are in their own right very important. And it'll be really something to see what they managed to attain.
Yeah, I think Mark Thiessen told me today, he says, we haven't seen this combination since Washington teamed with Benjamin Franklin, that you have the world's greatest inventor and maybe the smartest man in the world, certainly the richest, Elon Musk, and President Trump. What I think is also helpful, and you've been at the forefront of this, Dr. Peterson, I think we're putting the cancel culture in the rearview mirror. I feel like we're getting this political correctness. I feel like the political correctness is going to be in our past. I think America is sick of it. And you notice I didn't say Republicans or Democrats?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I hope you're right. I think there's one fly in the ointment, I would say, and that's the universities. The universities are overwhelmingly dominated by progressives among the faculty, but even more to the point among the administration, and that radically outnumbers the faculty. And it's not obvious to me at all how that's going to be turned around. And because virtually everyone who controls everything is run through the higher education system, that's still a dreadful flaw. And it's also the case for K through 12. You know, half the state budgets are K through 12 education, and they're controlled by the faculties of education and the teachers union, and the conservatives were absolutely 100% asleep at the wheel to allow that to happen.
For decades.
So the progressives still dominate education.
So I want to move on and talk about your home country. We have Justin Trudeau, who came out and starting to realize, if you don't mind I do this, that there's a little problem with illegal immigration in his country, and it's overwhelming everything. Here's what he said to the Canadian people.
Immigration. Let's talk about it. In the last 2 years, our population has grown really fast. Baby boom fast. And increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests. So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years.
Why has he found this fortuitous for him to talk about immigration? Why is he changing his tone?
Well, he's changing his tone because the policies that he put in place, which demolished the Canadian immigration system, threw the borders wide open, upending decades of effective immigration policy in Canada, have caused a catastrophic crisis in the country. And now you could see that he was blaming that on educational institutions and bad corporate actors. And that's exactly typical of him and his 14-year-old mentality. Everything that's gone wrong on the immigration front in Canada is 100% attributable to Justin Trudeau and his pack of demented minions. So now it's gone so badly in Canada that he has no choice but to reverse course. And then to see him flailing around to find someone to blame is exactly as pathetic as you'd expect from someone like him.
It is similar that they both flew over the borders. They denied it was a problem, and now they can't deny it. And they're trying to save their political fortunes. Let's talk about your book now.
Yeah, good luck.
I know, I hear you. We Who Wrestle with God. Why tackle this topic this way, and why use the term wrestle?
Well, because the word Israel, by the way, means we who wrestle with God. And Israel signifies the chosen people of the biblical library. And everybody wrestles with God because we all wrestle with the necessity to make moral choices and value judgments, and we can't act or attend or value anything without making moral judgments, and that's always a wrestling match. To do good or to do evil, or to choose between different goods that you could do. It's very difficult, very challenging, and we see the world through a story. That's a discovery that's been made in a multitude of disciplines in the last 6 decades. And the question that confronts Western culture at the moment, that is at the bottom of our culture war, is what story does and should prevail? And the postmodernist insistence is that it's the story of power, and the biblical insistence is that it's the story of voluntary sacrifice. And the biblical story is, it's correct. It's correct biologically, and it's correct conceptually and philosophically. And so I'm outlining that in this book.
Using some of the most famous names and figures in the Bible and seeing how they relate to us.
Yeah.
Here's an excerpt that I think I'd like to expand on, if you would. You said the most realistic and believable of heroes are by no means perfect people, while the most compelling villains are clearly those in whom some good still dwells. The mafia or other organized criminal characters dramatized successfully by American filmmakers provide very good examples. Consider, for example, Tony Soprano in The Sopranos, or Walter White in Breaking Bad. The story of Cain and Abel is an attempt by the collective human imagination to distill, transmit, and remember the essentials of good and bad into a single narrative. We think of those guys as bad, you know, but we search for good in their characters throughout the series that become unbelievably popular. You see similarities with the Bible.
Well, all of the biblical characters, especially in the Old Testament, are very flawed people. Jacob, who becomes Israel, is a terrible person when he's young. He conspires with his mother to deceive his brother and his father to the point where his brother becomes fratricide. Abraham is dependent and immature up until the middle of his 70s. All of the great heroes in the biblical texts are flawed people who decide at some point in their life to aim upward. And that's a really good thing for all of us, because if the story upon which our culture was founded wasn't one that enabled flawed people to prevail, none of us would have any hope. And the biblical stories lay out the pathway of redemption for people who are seriously damaged and flawed. And that's us, man.
I hear you. So everybody out there who's not perfect, which is everybody, there's still hope. You can make some choices, and that's another reason to pick up your book, We Who Wrestle with God. Hey, Dr. Peterson, it's been great talking to you. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend.
Thanks, Brian. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Absolutely, and good luck with your academy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any.
I should did it. Okay. 300,000. Yeah.
All right, guys, right now is Brunt's biggest
was saying, hey, you guys are giving free surgery to undocumented immigrants who are detainees who are trans. It's too much. It's too, and I agree, it is too much. 98% of Americans agree it is too much, right?
And I'm like, so I got to know Jeff before I knew what his politics were. Incredibly kind guy. He helps everyone in this building with anything they might need. And so that woke me up to, wait a minute, not all Trump supporters are like dangerous, evil individuals. And yes, it was stupid that I thought that to begin with.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. I probably feel similar to you to some extent, maybe not as extreme. I don't refer to myself as a centrist per se, but I definitely feel far more independent now than I ever have in my life.
I've been on Rogan's show 3 times. I've probably heard over 100 hours of it in the past decade. A decade ago, Joe Rogan was a Bernie Sanders supporter who would get emotional talking about how important it is to legalize marijuana, who would get emotional talking about how important it is to get Christianity out of politics, in particular on the abortion issue, who had a host of left-wing opinions, including about healthcare, and liberals drove him away.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks and Cenk Uygur are being accused by the left of being more centrist now, being more conservative. To be honest, they're not. They've actually not changed their tune at all since they've been doing the Young Turks. Not a lot anyway. It's the party that has changed. Let me play you some clips, and I'll give you my opinion between them. Let's get to it.
I think that politics has substituted religion to some extent. People have almost like this religious zealotry toward their political beliefs. And when that happens, it's really difficult to have a conversation with someone without it immediately devolving into allegations of bad faith, of, lying, deception, all sorts of things. And so maybe that's part of it. But honestly, I didn't really notice this as an issue in America until Donald Trump was running for president, and then after he got elected as president. And I am 1,000,000% guilty of honestly allowing him to kind of break my brain for a little bit, because I saw him as such a significant threat. And so I'm like trying to get his bicycle up the stairs, and all of a sudden this man stops me. His name's Jeff. And he's like, hey, let me help you out with that. And he starts helping me out. He stopped everything he was doing to help me out. And then Jeff and I became very close. One of my neighbors who I really like, he was my favorite person in the entire building. And years go by. One day we're in an HOA meeting, homeowners association, and one of the people living in the building said something about Trump that was negative. I don't remember what it is. And Jeff whispers in my ear, oh, she's going to start trashing Trump. I'm out of here. And it hit me that he's a Trump supporter. We had never talked about politics before. And I'm like, so I got to know Jeff before I knew what his politics were. Incredibly kind guy. He helps everyone in this building with anything they might need. And so that woke me up to, wait a minute, not all Trump supporters are like dangerous, evil individuals. And yes, it was stupid that I thought that to begin with. I'm embarrassed admitting that, but it's just how I believed. And that kind of was one of the moments where it's like a light bulb went off, and something was telling me, you need to scratch beneath the surface a little more, because you don't have a realistic view of what's going on here.
Now, those first couple of clips, I wanted to give you some context. And now I'm going to show you a clip of her recently on the Piers Morgan show where she talks more in depth about this. And you'll see when you listen to her, she reminds me more of somebody who would have been a Democrat pre-Trump. Now, let's call it 8 years ago, 10 years ago. So those are the values that I see for the limited amount of time that I listen to Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur. Let's listen to her on the Piers Morgan show.
The third thing that you cited was a story of a guy called Jeff in your apartment block who you became friends with before you realized he was a Trump supporter. And that changed your view of what a Trump supporter actually could be like. Tell me about that.
Oh, bullshit.
Well, I think that in Trump's first term, a lot of people place themselves in silos. So I was very much in a left-wing silo where I kind of refused to have any kind of relationship with someone who had voted for Trump. And so as a result, I was allowing kind of like the Democratic Party and mass media to paint a picture of all Trump supporters without really investigating it. I just kind of accepted what their summation was. Jeff, who I love, and I kind of feel bad because now like a lot of people are talking about him and he didn't ask for me to mention him. But anyway, you know, I met him at a time when I needed help. Like I was moving into this building, my husband wasn't available, he was going to a fire academy training. And so at that time, I'm like lugging my husband's heavy bicycle up the stairs, and Jeff comes across and just says, can I help you with that? He grabs the bike and he basically helped me move in. And this guy doesn't know me. This guy really had no reason to help me, but he dropped everything he was doing and decided to dedicate the rest of the day to helping me out, getting to know me. And throughout, you know, the subsequent weeks and months, we got to know each other better. Really, really sweet guy. And then one day we're at an HOA meeting. I remember we're sitting together on the couch as the meeting's going on. And a woman in our building stood up and she said something negative about Trump. And I was shocked because Jeff whispers in my ear, you know, oh, if she's going to be trashing Trump, then I'm out of here. And that made me realize, oh, he's a Trump supporter. And so I investigated that a little more. I was curious about his politics. He was a lifelong Democrat. He loved JFK, you know, voted for JFK. And he just said, you know, I feel like we should support our president, even if it's someone that you did not support, you did not vote for. He's our president now. And so he explained where he was politically, but it actually didn't matter to me because I got to know who Jeff was as a person prior to understanding or knowing about his politics. And so that didn't just wake me up to how you know, Trump supporters are not a monolith. It woke me up to the fact that all of us are complex human beings. And we should not have one side of us or one element of who we are define the entirety of our character, right, or the entirety of who we are as people. So that's what I was trying to say.
You've come under a bit of flack, both for your pivot, as it's seen, from left to right. The attacks have been led by Laura Loomer, who I'm on record as saying is a complete lunatic. But she said him was an opportunist in the form of you, and as a malicious and pathological liar who has spent years with her co-host, Czech Yuga, lying about and trying to cancel every outspoken Trump supporter, including myself. She spread delusional lies about Trump. But now in a low-cut top and a full face of makeup, she wants to tell some make-believe story about a guy called Jeff, who all of a sudden made her realize that 80 million people are all unique individuals and not Nazis. Come on. Nobody is buying this garbage. Anna's trying to remain relevant to the changing media landscape after she's made serious cash bashing people like me who actually busted my ass to help Trump get elected. He's a full-blown liar. You need to reject people like this, blah, blah, blah. What's your response to Ms. Loomer?
Well, my response is actually going to clarify something you said a little earlier, which is my pivot from the left to right. I would not describe what I'm currently espousing as right-wing. I have been, basically, on economic policies, I'm very much left-wing. I have rejected the Democratic Party because they sell a bill of goods that I'm not interested anymore. Same with the Republican Party, generally speaking. So I consider myself unaligned, and I have moderated my views on a handful of some social issues. So that's where I am right now. I really am unaligned. Neither political party represents my best interests. With that in mind,
I feel that way.
I think Laura Loomer is worried that I'm going to vie for some sort of role in Trump's White House or in the Trump ecosystem. And I just want to let her know I'm not vying for any of that.
A lot of
I'm
issues
very
I
happy
don't
where
agree
I am
with
at
them.
work.
And there's a lot I do.
Don't
economy,
want to,
absolutely.
push you out of whatever position you have in the Trump universe. Like, the fact that she brought up my physical appearance, I thought was interesting. I'm sensing a little bit of jealousy, if I may say. It seems like it. It seems like it. And I'm not really looking to roll around in the mud with someone like Laura Loomer. So
No,
I just
God,
want
I
to
can't think
let
of
her
anything
know
worse.
everything's going to be okay, Laura.
Yeah, I think of all the million things you could suggest that I might least want to do, number one would be rolling in the mud with Laura Loomer. But what people have said is they said you were quite outspoken. I'll play it to you. This is what you said when Dave Rubin pivoted. Let's have a look.
There has been this prevalence of prominent figures who identify as the left, right, or on the left, who then later start to, cozy up to right-wing figures, and then it turns out that they completely move to the right wing because they're essentially paid to do it. They're used as tools by the right wing to essentially spew right-wing talking points while purporting to still be on the left. In fact, Dave Rubin's a great example of that. Dave Rubin used to work with us. He identified as someone on the left.
Dave,
yeah, go ahead.
Forgive me, Anna. Dave Rubin made a video for PragerU, Why I Left the Left.
Oh, I know.
He does not, in fact, state to the world that he's still on the left. I don't know who you have in mind, so I can only address the one name that you gave.
So, I mean, have you pulled a Rubin, as some people suggest?
I mean, I'm still pretty left-wing, and I'm still working at the exact same place. Look, I don't know. Maybe I was wrong about Dave Rubin, but I just felt that he, first of all, after he left TYT, he did lie about us, and that bothered me because we were still friends, and I didn't understand what was going on, so I was discombobulated about what was happening with Dave after he left TYT. He did leave on good terms, so it was weird. And, he kept saying that he was this classical liberal, but had trouble defining what that meant and had trouble reinforcing or at least backing up some of the claims that he was making about, his newfound identity. So, look, live and let live. Dave is doing his thing. I did feel that his pivot was strange, but maybe it was sincere. Who knows?
Well, it's interesting. Somebody accused me of being a Republican. It was Brian Tyler Cohen. He said, you're obviously a Republican. Or Wajah Ali was one of them. And I said, look, I'm not a Republican. I'm somebody who identifies as liberal, but who has increasingly felt in recent years that I have absolutely nothing in common with modern-day far-left, woke, supposed liberals whose whole behavioural pattern is not remotely liberal. It's actually a form of modern-day fascism, which is incredibly ironic, given that they would say fascism is the one thing they hate most in the world. And I feel a bit like Bill Maher and people like that who become more popular, actually, to conservatives because they said the same thing. And I'm kind of like that, where I would say I'm probably a centrist now. I don't identify as to the right or conservative, but I have nothing in common with the woke left at all. I find them preposterous people.
Sorry to stop it in the middle here, guys, but if you don't mind just smashing that thumbs up button for your boy, that really goes a long way into helping me out. Also, if you're not yet subscribed and this is not your first time here, hopefully this will be the video in which I can earn your subscription.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. I probably feel similar to you to some extent, maybe not as extreme. I don't refer to myself as a centrist per se, but I definitely feel far more independent now than I ever have in my life. Because you're right. I mean, you do look at the two political parties, dominant political parties in the United States, and I used to identify so strongly with what the Democratic Party represented, but as they have kind of devolved further and further down this rabbit hole of maximalist policies for very specific groups of people, and that's the other thing. I'm just so tired of constantly focusing on how our identities or our race, our gender, our sexual orientation, how different that makes us from one another. No, you're a working class American, you've got a lot more in common with an Asian working class American, a transgender working class American, a gay working class American than
Trump
you do
understood, isn't it?
with a black person who was chosen to be the head of a major Fortune 500 company. I probably have less in common with that woman than I would with a working class American from a different background.
Yes. I
or
think
a
Trump,
white woman who's a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I have less in common with her.
Totally agree. I think Trump brilliantly tapped into that. I think he recognized that. And the fact that so many Black Americans, Latino Americans, Jewish Americans, Muslim Americans, white Americans, the fact they all turned out to vote for him in such big numbers shows that he managed to smash through all the ethnicity and religious divides and everything else. And he just tapped into things they all cared about, which were cost of living, illegal immigration, and I would also add the woke culture, which has become increasingly antithetical to what most people want to see their lives led like. They don't want to be living a life of fascist kind of control where everyone gets cancelled for saying the wrong thing or reading the wrong book or laughing at the wrong moment of a joke, etc.
Now here we have Cenk Uygur and fake socialist Hassan Piker, who is a multi-millionaire streamer who owns a bunch of fancy cars, luxury Porsches and condos and houses. You're not going to call yourself a socialist, brother. But this is Cenk Uygur telling him, listen, the Trump they-them ad worked. And our socialist friend's kind of in denial, but Cenk Uygur here is right. Let's get to it. Now play a quick CNN clip, and I'm signing off. Let's go.
You asked Elon Musk to put you in charge of cutting the Pentagon. How'd that go?
It's official. I'm now running the entire Pentagon. Because that's how it works. Yeah. No, look, I thought it went great. And but the left doesn't think it went great. So let me explain. So Elon says I want to cut $2 trillion from the budget. In reality, there isn't $2 trillion to cut. All discretionary spending is only $1.7 trillion. But there is one place where you could have massive savings, and that's the Pentagon. And that's because they never pass an audit. This is their 7th straight audit that they failed. And they say that they generally can't account for half the money, which is over $400 billion. So I said on X, hey, Elon, put me in charge of the Pentagon. I'll cut $400 billion overnight. And hey, all of a sudden you're 20% of the way home to your goal, right? And he said, give me suggestions. So let's pause there. No Democratic leader has ever asked me for suggestions, even though I run the largest left-wing media network in the country. They've never asked why. Oh, populist. What would a populist know? He doesn't even support the donors. Terrible. We're never going to ask him, right? So Elon asked. Already, that's progress. That's already better than what I was getting from the other side. And so then the left goes, no, don't say that. Okay, but what do you want me to do? Lie? Do you want me to tell you that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden call me every other day? Like, oh, we're really interested in what populist left thinks. Oh, we're super interested in what our base wants. They're not at all interested in what their base wants. They pretty much hate what their base wants. So that's great. And then I gave him a suggestion, which was, hey, listen, if you want to cut in a real way, you'd have to, of course, do it line by line. So if you bring me in, and we both went to Wharton, we both run businesses. His are, of course, much larger. But hey, I run a top 10 media network in the country. So both of us know how we can go line by line and cut things that are actually wasteful, inefficient. And by the way, some of it is just corruption, just massive pork barrel spending. Okay, but for now, I can give you a suggestion of stop having the generals work for defense contractors. Because the minute they retire, they go work for the military-industrial complex. And since they're going to get millions of dollars from those guys, what do they do before they retire? They give those same companies billions of dollars, sometimes hundreds of billions of dollars in contracts. That's an obvious, massive conflict of interest that any business person would understand, anyone with common sense would understand. And so then Don Jr. jumped in and he said, that's a good idea, and we're already discussing. Great! Okay, so
you've got Elon certifying, and you've got the son of Trump stepping in as well.
That's right. And then Donald Trump Jr. came back in and said, again, hey, this is just common sense, and we should be going in that direction. So now if the left wants to complain, if they do it, because they haven't done it yet. If Elon and Trump and et cetera cut the Pentagon or do a great rule about conflict of interest for the generals that the left has wanted for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. If they complain, oh, they did the thing we wanted, I got it, then I can't help you, right?
Yeah,
if you can't take the win, I can't help you.
Does this sense a lot of the time that purity is more important than victory.
Oh, 100%. And unfortunately, that's one of the defining hallmarks of the modern left that out of rebellion.
I voted yes on Prop 36. Did you vote no on Prop 36?
Prop 36 was the increasing the penalties. Yeah, I voted no on it. Yes.
Yeah, so we have a disagreement.
Yeah.
So what were the penalties? They said for theft under $950, if you've done it 3 times, then we're going to move it to a felony instead of a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Okay,
I disagree.
What it was saying, hey, you guys are giving free surgery to undocumented immigrants who are detainees who are trans. It's too much. And I agree. It is too much. 98% of Americans agree. It is too much, right? So instead of saying, oh, no, that you guys are right, that's too much. And of course, sports leagues, that's fine. And of course, no, we're not going to pay for any surgery for a dude who just crossed the border a second ago, right? Instead, you guys go, no, let's fight. Oh, for God's sake. And you dig in, and now we're on a losing ground for no reason at all.
Can you tell me who on the Democratic Party's campaign was actually saying, like, no, we have to issue bottom surgery for undocumented migrants, outside of Kamala Harris saying that in an ACLU questionnaire in 2019 when faced with the question, what will you do for trans people? She just gave that answer, which was a bad answer to give regardless. But was there like a hyper focus from the Democratic Party's campaign that I'm missing?
So Trump starts running the ad. And it instantly jumps to the most effective ad according to Trump's internal numbers and according to Kamala Harris's internal numbers. So at that point,
that's also not true. David Plouffe literally said on the Pod Save America autopsy that they engaged in that the ad actually wasn't all that impactfed at all.
Yeah, bullshit.
Oh, you
I
don't
saw
believe
him
it?
say that. I know it's not true because Future Forward, the biggest that Kamala Harris said that the Charlemagne the God version of that moved the national polls by not the national polls, but for people who viewed it, it moved the numbers by 2.7 points nationally.
Okay.
That is gigantic, and they said it was the most effective ad Trump had. That's why he then doubled down and quadrupled down and wound up spending 20% of his entire ad budget on that ad.
I think
because both sides thought it was the single most effective ad.
I think that's literally the reason why Kamala Harris was able to actually catch up to Donald Trump on not only the economy because of their hyper focus on the trans shit, but here's where
that helped Kamala Harris.
No, I don't. I think that this kind of hyper focus on a marginalized group is not moving people to go out and vote in any meaningful capacity for some of the reasons that you also mentioned, but also because most people don't know who the fuck trans people are. They've never met a trans person. They don't give a shit. They just care about the economy. And when you're hyper focusing on just like, trans people and like dominating trans people or some shit, even if it's something that they agree with, they're like, after a certain point, there is outrage fatigue. And I think on the trans issue, we like consultants and people who are hyper focused on the media care far more about the effectiveness of ads like that than the actual Americans that went out and voted. And you saw
Except
this reality.
We lost, they won.
No, I know, but okay. So
I mean, like, it's so in the real world, they won, we lost. In the
that's why
in
you
the
have to
world
look at,
of
that's why you have
consultants
to,
where they look at polling.
That's why you have
they
to
won,
look.
we lost.
That's why you have to look at the broader campaign and what Americans were concerned with and why they voted in the ways that they did. And I think here's where you and I agree on.
So your position is, even though both sides overwhelmingly say that ad was the most effective ad and it moved people and it cost Kamala Harris tons and tons of votes, you disagree?
Yes.
I've been on Rogan's show 3 times. I've probably heard over 100 hours of it in the past decade. A decade ago, Joe Rogan was a Bernie Sanders supporter who would get emotional talking about how important it is to legalize marijuana, who would get emotional talking about how important it is to get Christianity out of politics, in particular on the abortion issue, who had a host of left-wing opinions, including about healthcare. And liberals drove him away by calling him a racist, unearthing jokes he made, calling him a misogynist, really with no evidence.
When you make racist
calling him
jokes
a transphobe,
about people of color,
calling him a
people
lot of
calling you
comedians
racist is likely going to
jokes
happen.
all the time. Calling him transphobic because he didn't like
He
seeing
also didn't
Fallon
love the
Fox
vaccine thing, right?
beating up.
To our point earlier.
That also used to be a left-wing opinion, to be against vaccines like 20 years ago. Again, so he actually hasn't shapeshifted very much, to your point. The Democratic Party has shapeshifted and driven him away and alienated his followers.
I think what he ended up seeing was an American political sphere that shifted, and he found ways. He's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. He found ways to walk into where those people were. Yes, he was a proud, ultra leftist, and then he became a proud person on the right, largely because he saw shifting towards the right, and that's where his money and his audience could come from. He shifted because more of his listeners shifted, and that's where he drove it to. That's nothing more than consumerism at work.
Which of his beliefs changed in the past 10 years? It's really hard to point out which of his beliefs.
But can I zoom out from him? Because I think there is this, and I see you nodding as well, this kind of bigger question. Like, you have a Jon Stewart, right? You have Pod Save America. You have all kinds of the late night, television brigade.
They're all left on the late night shows. I think what he said to me, what rings true about this whole concept of finding the liberal Joe Rogan is, he said, inauthentic. And when you talked about what Kamala Harris did in this campaign, knocking on doors, doing it sort of the traditional way, right? Raising tons of money. But there's something about Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, or Joe Rogan or whomever, they are authentic.
Anyone who thinks Joe Rogan is a conservative, he's not. I've listened to Rogan pretty much since his show has been on. I don't listen to every episode. Obviously, he's on 5 to 7 times a week for 3-hour shows. But I would say Rogan, more of a libertarian than anything. It's the party that has really changed when it comes to the Democrats. I was never somebody who voted for them or who would vote for them, but I remember Bill Clinton, and he wasn't that bad compared to what they have now. Give me Bill all day long. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.
At Grainger, we have over 1 million products, including the ones that help keep your workplace safe and sound. Shop our vast inventory of safety products at Grainger.com. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Boo! Hello, America! Yes, it's really me, George Washington, back from the dead. And I come back to you now at the turn of the tide. The United States are in peril. But this time, the threat is not the British Empire. No doubt that institution has stopped creating drama throughout the world, am I right? No. America isn't in danger because of other countries, it's in danger because of Americans themselves. Your generation is repeating the mistakes of the past because they weren't taught how to learn from history. Ask this generation about the redcoats and they'll point you to Urban Outfitters. Schools are failing our kids with dumbed-down history education and textbook propaganda, weakening our fragile republic. Heck, I've rolled over in my grave so many times I could use my coffin as an electric generator. Don't tell Franklin. But how are history books failing our kids and our country, you ask? Well, let's just say I've got one reason for each of the ships rebels boarded during the Boston Tea Party. I've got 3 reasons. There were 3 ships. Number 1, they're often agenda-driven.
Today's episode is brought to you by Liquid Death. Drink up. Today's guest is a tall man, and he's a comedian as well. He was semi-recently affected by cancel culture over at Saturday Night Live. He is a co-host of Matt and Shane's Secret podcast with his partner, just friend, Matt McCusker. Today's guest is comedian who I met last night, Mr. Shane Gillis.
How you feeling, bro?
Me?
Yeah.
I feel pretty good, man. I think I was just trying to think earlier about how I'm feeling. I think sometimes for me, it's like I have to think about how I'm feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like I think some people are just feeling, you know?
Yeah. It's like when you're depressed. You got to like figure it out. Because when you're depressed, you don't like know you're depressed. You're just kind of like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I don't feel like doing anything.
Yeah,
you know, you
people
got to
like-
take some time.
Yeah, people are like, why are you at this animal shelter? And you're like, I don't know. I just
want to say goodbye to these guys.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I just want to say goodbye to all these cats.
Yeah, man. I don't even know them, but I miss them.
RFK Jr. Now, if you're not familiar with him, it's probably because he ran for president and nobody cared.
There was a time when late night TV could be relied upon to bring entertainment and joy, a kind of ferocious vivacity and excitement about American cultural life. But some time ago, I reckon it was around 2016, late night entertainment itself became a kind of propaganda. Maybe it always has been, maybe it was diffuse and homogenized in ways that made it difficult to discern and read. Maybe that's the function of a culture, to somehow mold and control you. Great big vast questions that unfold across millennia. But what's certain now is that the late night world has become part of the propaganda machinery, and even respected comedians like Stephen Colbert can be seen frequently advocating for ideas that might not be beneficial to their audience, and certainly suggest that they're only talking to one particular group. And that might not have been something that I myself would have been alert to until he began to attack Bobby Kennedy quite vociferously and frequently.
That's how I didn't like him.
Now, have a look at this speech of Stephen Colbert's where he sort of talks about Bobby Kennedy, who's now, or from January, will be in charge of branches of government that means he'll be able to significantly impact the health of Americans by controlling the
I'd
excesses
say
of
the favorite
big
stuff's out
food
by now, bro.
and
Yeah,
big
yeah,
pharma.
it
Let me know
is,
in the
bro.
comments and
Wait a
chat if you
minute.
think this is exactly the kind of reckoning that was required. Do you, not like me, have the image of America being turned into a vast carousel of unhealthy children dropped like larvae onto a conveyor belt so
I
they
think
can
a little
live
bit
their
more
life
comes about
eating
that known.
processed seed oils and sugars, making
what
them
I'm
sick and
thinking,
unwell,
bro.
so that they can eventually be medicated for diabetes and heart disease, so that they can be blobbed up on Ozempic their entire lives. So when you're ridiculing someone like Bobby Kennedy, who's, you know, an eccentric guy, an eccentric isn't a pejorative term, that means unusual, and the embrace of unusual or brilliant, excellent and advanced people used to be part of what American life was about. So have a look at Stephen Colbert's framing of Bobby Kennedy as an individual. Neglecting to talk about the crisis in American health, the crisis in big pharma that needs to be addressed, the corruption in both of those industries, and the possibility of the state backed by and populated by the right political figures to oppose the kind of corruption that's been making America sick, and the possibility that now we could be making America healthy again. Let me know in the comments and chat what it tells you when Stephen Colbert attacks Bobby Kennedy in this way. Whose side is he on? What causes is he advocating for? We're going to look first of all at Stephen Colbert's speech. We're going to look at some facts about American nutrition and American corporate life and how America may have been being poisoned for getting on.
The power event here is, I don't think it's, I think you got till noon to finish up, bro, basically. Let's see here. About the event, let's see what we can get it to come up. Let's see, it says you can claim the North Carolina or the Chevron. I have them both, so I don't know how that's going to be. How man will do on that one, to be honest. Let's see. I believe you can see it better in the mission itself. 5 hours, so that's going to be around 10 o'clock today. That I guess you'll be able to cash that in, and they'll put up whatever for these tokens. I mean, I'm just there's 2,000 more for me to get, but I mean, I should be able to get them within the time that I have. I would think. I hope I can anyway. You know. Let me try to fix this for my back, bro. That's hurting really bad in my back right this morning. Let me try to find me something here for it. But I'll take it. Help me. And you're welcome, bro. Now let's see here, dudes. Let me get my keyboard back. I don't know, man. I mean, this one we've been a couple months in on, so you know, and not for sure. I thought it was gonna give. I know that I thought it was a ship you could get out of it, but just didn't know it was ships we already had. We got these common ones that's in here. Alvin and Revan. Win a battle. Hoffman. I don't got that one. I don't think I have any of these. Maybe that one. No, I ain't got no. Not that one. I just don't keep it on that Christmas stuff, bro, because it's hard to navigate off of it to your ships and stuff, so. But the Christmas stuff is up. It's been for about a week now. You know. About a week now. Something like that, along them lines.
Battle starts.
Let's see, where the hell are we?
Autopilot mode enabled.
Awaiting instructions.
Enemy force detected.
So, yeah.
Enemy destroyer detected. Enemy battleship detected.
We set him up hard any damn way, don't we?
Enemy submarine in sight.
Enemy battleship sighted.
Awaiting instructions.
Enemy destroyer detected. Autopilot mode disabled.
Awaiting instructions.
Shit.
Problem solved, sir.
Enemy aircraft carrier sighted.
Our team has taken the lead. Enemy battleship sunk.
Yeah, we're going straight for that aircraft carrier, bros.
Problem solved, sir.
Enemy destroyer sighted.
Torpedoes to port. Hull breach. We're taking on water quickly.
Enemy aircraft carrier destroyed.
Ship is on fire. Problem solved, sir.
We've destroyed an enemy cruiser.
Autopilot mode enabled.
We've sunk an enemy destroyer.
Autopilot mode disabled.
Our victory is in sight.
I don't know why I shot them Vorgas. Let's see, we need what? 4 more thousand? Yeah. Huh. Oh no. Let me see, dudes. One moment, bros. All right, bro. There we go. Well, let's see. I've still got that expedition one to do. We got this one. We need 4,000 for base. Okay, let's see, bros. Let's go fix it back here, bros. Well, I guess we could use them. As far as I know, Bluto's set up for it, so. Yeah, it don't take nothing special for them, bros, I tell you that. There we go. First time I've ever played with this one on here. I've played with it before. On the test servers.
I'll show them who's boss.
Yeah, you show them, Blue. You bitch.
Autopilot enabled. This better take me where it's supposed to. Here they are. They are done. Detected enemy carrier. Oh, another cruiser for me to destroy.
There goes the main.
If you want to do something right, you have to do it yourself. The bigger battleship is, the harder it falls. Torpedoes to port! You'd better evade them. Torpedoes to port! You'd better evade them. Torpedoes to port! You'd better evade them.
You're fine.
Torpedoes to port! You'd better evade them.
Oh, piss, boy, oh, shut up. This Bodo won't shut his mouth. We go, that's the one I've been looking for. That's going to have to get closer to him to shoot him.
is.
Thanks to me, we're gonna win. They didn't stand a chance against Pluto.
That's 3.
Enemy aircraft carrier destroyed.
Yeah. That's 3. Go in the hole with these bros. That's a fact about that. So, yeah. Right here. 250K. We didn't get that. We got minus 42. We ain't gonna know that bad. Alrighty, bro.
on for 50 years in order to create business opportunities. We have the examples now of the tobacco industry. We have numerous examples we can look at, in particular from the pandemic period, of how advocating for certain ideas might be beneficial to corporations and detrimental to ordinary Americans. It's just surprising when you see that done in the name of entertainment. Here's Stephen Colbert's speech where he's attacking Bobby Kennedy, and then we'll provide some analysis that shows you who this message benefits and who it harms.
We still don't know the entire parade of clowns, degenerates, and in-laws that Trump will have running this country, but one guy we know will have a major role is RFK Jr. Now, if you're not familiar with him, it's probably because he ran for president and nobody cared. But
okay, so we're going
in with
a
stance,
position and a general sense of attack when it comes to Bobby Kennedy. Now, a little while ago, Bobby Kennedy would have been adored because he took on companies like, I think, Monsanto and sort of advocated on behalf of rivers. If you care about the environment, if you're like a liberal person who cares about the values of environmentalism and civil rights and social justice, Bobby Kennedy could be a hero. But notice what they want to portray Kennedy as is a whack job and a crackpot and a weirdo, because it's not so easily available. What's not available are the tropes that you would use to attack Trump. Oh, he's a misogynist, he's a racist, he's a sexist. You know, so it helps me to understand that as long as you are not part of the central authoritarian system, they will find a way to attack you. Trump, that's the way we attack him. Kennedy, that's the way we attack him. Joe Rogan, that's the way we attack him. Do you see? They'll find a way to attack you if your message is antithetical to this set of authoritarian interests that are becoming more apparent now, simply because, well, it looks like we're going to have more access to free speech.
we're familiar with him because he's done a whole mess of crazy stuff, including, but not limited to, admitting to dumping a dead bear in Central Park as a prank, living with an emu who would regularly attack his wife, owning 2 ravens who meditate with him every morning, bragging about his freezer full of roadkill.
Whilst that's very trivial information, what's brilliant about this is it's a lens into how legacy media works. It highlights information that could be beneficial. It metastasizes, makes negative information that in a different context you could regard almost as amusing or in fact heartening, like a guy that sort of meditates with ravens. I thought, that's interesting, that's fascinating. Like, do you notice what the function is of the media? To toxify your impression of a particular individual.
And beheading a whale, then strapping it to the roof of his minivan for a 5-hour drive home. Now, that sounds deranged, but he actually has a good reason for all of this. A worm got into his brain and ate a portion of it and then died. So, naturally.
Who is this for? What is the function of this monologue?
This whale decapitating, bear dumping, walking, talking worm cemetery is who Donald Trump wants to put in charge of our nation's health.
Right, so he is a comedian with a massive audience, and on the subject of health and the management of American health and the governing of American health, he's not talking to you about big pharma, he's not talking to you about lobbying and donors, he's not talking to you about the pandemic where he advocated vociferously and aggressively for vaccines and even vaccine mandates, ridiculing people who were skeptical about taking vaccines, concerned people who were openly reporting vaccine injuries, getting pretty close to saying that if you didn't have a vaccine, you didn't deserve hospital care. I remember those things. Do you remember them? Let me know in the comments and chat. Do you remember when Colbert was broadcasting from home? Do you remember the kind of lachrymose tone of like, oh, we all have to stick together for America? Now, Bobby Kennedy at that time was way ahead of the curve. He'd already written his book and it was published, Anthony Fauci, The Real Anthony Fauci, where he talked about Fauci's corporate relationships. Do you see how highlighting and amplifying the trivial and the ridiculous? Oh, he cut a whale's head off. He had a brainworm. These are like ridiculous, tittle-tattle, trivial stories when Colbert could be, if he wanted to, be telling the story about how America is making Americans sick. That American food companies promote foods that are bad for Americans, that are making American children sick. That big pharma companies require you to be sick. That we could be on the precipice, if America doesn't change radically, of advocating for a whole raft of kids to start taking a drug like Ozempic. Grand Canyon University, a private Christian university in Phoenix, believe that we are endowed by our Creator to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness from the Constitution. A Christian university, eh? GCU believe in equal opportunities, and equip everyone to serve others in ways that promote human flourishing, creating, as they believe, a ripple effect of transformation. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, a master's, or a doctoral degree, GCU's online and on-campus learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique goals. Why don't you learn a bit more? With over 340 academic programs as of March 2024, GCU provide you the path to fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Let it flourish. Wow, it's a pretty profound goal, isn't it? Because everything we do is about self, and this is about service.
I saved $700 with Liberty Mutual.
Completely lost it? Probably, but after 3 years of laying low, Baldwin seems to be returning to the political spotlight, and he's picking up right where he left off, making outlandish claims about Americans to bringing back his famously bad impersonation of Trump on SNL. The actor seems determined to stir the pot once again, and so today we're covering that in addition to proving why his recent impersonation is a cheap one. As always, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I know I'm in a little bit of a different set right now. I am on vacation with my family, hanging out with my dad in the other room, so thank you all very much for watching. I am truly grateful for all of you.
Television news in the United States is a business. They have to make money. And again, not to go into great detail about that, but there's a hole, there's a vacuum. There is a gap, if you will, in information for Americans. Americans are very uninformed about reality, what's really going on. With climate change, Ukraine, Israel, you name it, all the biggest topics in the world, Americans have an appetite for a little bit of information. That vacuum is filled by the film industry, not just the independent film industry, not just the documentary film industry, which are very important around the world, but by narrative films as well, where the filmmakers and the buyers, the studios and the networks and the streamers are willing to go that way. They're willing to try to make films that are not only entertaining, but informative as well.
So these comments came during a recent press conference where the movie Rust was being promoted at the Torino Film Festival. There's actually a word for that Alec is referring to here, and it's called propaganda. You see, when the industry starts morphing news to inform audiences through films and shows, it's stepping into dangerous territory. The beauty in entertainment lies in its universality. Movies, music, and shows bring people together, regardless of your political beliefs, background, color, creed, anything. But when creators start injecting overt political messages into news, they alienate audiences. Nobody's sitting down with popcorn to get lectured about the latest political controversy. If people really wanted the news, then they would tune into a news channel. I am not saying that politically charged or socially aware movies should not be made. Absolutely the opposite, because such works certainly have their place, and they can be incredibly impactful when done correctly. For instance, Mel Gibson nailed it with Sound of Freedom, where he tackled a gut-wrenching and crucial issue, shedding light on a problem many people would rather ignore, starring Jim Caviezel, a great actor. Yet, I didn't see Baldwin rallying behind it, but hey, who am I to judge? To demonstrate the type of work Alec is talking about, he made a comeback on SNL a couple of weeks ago, and, well, I'll let his performance judge itself.
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to tell you again, I'm so honored to be the head of the Health and Human Services Department. Americans need someone to teach them how to be healthy, someone like me, a 70-year-old man with movie star looks and a worm in his brain.
Bobby,
Bobby, I love you. I can't wait to see what you do with this country in terms of health and with regard to measles outbreak.
I care deeply about a woman's right to choose to give her child polio. I just wish people would take my appointment more seriously. All right, I gotta go. I got a dead dolphin in my car. I think I might saw it in half and dump it in Central Park. I'll let you know, I'll let you know how it goes. Thanks for the job, man.
That's the type of informative work Alec was referring to. I have to say, though, Shane Gillis dodged a bullet by skipping on the Trump roll, and instead we got James Johnson, who arguably does the worst impression of President-elect Trump, and it's not even funny. Going back to Baldwin, his impression felt more like a missed opportunity than a comedic takedown. Sure, he brought up Bobby's controversial past comments, but it came off as low-hanging fruit, not taking into account the nuance of his actual positions. People were quick to take to X and post about how his performance was, quote, Alec Baldwin thinks people who voted for Trump are ignorant, but at least they don't appear on SNL with their pants down. Another user added, quote, you know your show has been shot dead when the best choice you believe to have is Alec Baldwin to do an impression he can't even do. I think satire works best when it captures the essence of a person and delivers it with razor-sharp wit. What we got here was more of a caricature stripped of substance and crafted purely to elicit laughs from an audience, primed to mock anyone outside of their political bubble. This was a clear attempt by them to brainwash people into saying why RFK Jr. is such a bad pick for the HHS secretary role, and they're clearly losing the battle on that front because even other people on the left are noticing the good he can bring to the table.
Look, I supported Kamala Harris. I wish that we were talking about her appointments and how wonderful they were, including for Health and Human Services, but also look for opportunities where we can. And if there's an opportunity to reduce harmful pesticide use with negative consequences on the ecosystem and our health, if there's a way to save people money on prescription drugs, if there's a way to improve nutrition, reducing consumption